how can men today and masculine people unlearn the patriarchy, like specifically in terms of like male gaze and thinking that they're owed sex, and especially like in this day where in online spaces they're dominated by, like, or not dominated necessarily, but just there's just so much like podcast bros and passport bros, and there's a lot of like rhetoric that to me feels like we're regressing in terms of any sort of progress. And me as a young masculine person, I feel like it just seems like kind of hopeless in terms of like seeing anything major change in our lifetime. So one of the things that people can do today as individuals systemically in order to unlearn a lot of these ideas.
I mean, I would say to unlearn them, it's kind of, the burden's a little bit on you. I don't want to be rude about it, but I think, you know, it's not POC's and women's and trans people's job to get people to see that stuff. But
I'll interject here, and I'll
you seem anyway, let me just finish really quickly.
Right, second time I've tried to shut Emma down today. I think I need a part of this conversation.
Exactly. I mean, he needs an education. But just listen to trans people, listen to women, listen to their experiences. Don't just watch Andrew Tate or men. Like, I think it's difficult sometimes for certain men to see women as authority figures. And they don't even really fully understand sometimes, like, why they're more dismissive of, like, you know, why when a man makes a certain argument, it goes home for them more than if a woman does. So it really is just a case of like expanding the consciousness by listening to different groups of people, and listening, not centering yourself or talking. That's, I think, how you can get deprogrammed.
Right. No, I think that's...
What about specific... Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was about to say,
I was just gonna...
also, too, is like, you know, this might sound like, you know, you've probably heard this phrase before, but it's true. It rings really true. You just have to see other people as human beings, too. You know, you have to view whomever it is you're talking about in this specific scenario. Let's just say women as a whole. You know, how would you feel if you were in their shoes and, you know, everything you just mentioned, people were staring you down or expecting something out of you just because of who you were or what that person was trying to do. Like, you really have to just view the other person as an equal. And then, you know, I think, you know, that's not the only thing, because obviously there's other things that you need to do too. It shouldn't just be about how, like, oh, how would that make me feel? But I think that's a good first step.
Yeah, I mean, I would also echo that. And this is sort of like, I think, at the risk of giving Jordan Peterson-esque, like, you know, facts for life. But, you know, I'll do it anyway. The first thing I would say is that, like, Andrew Tate's like a scam. You know, it's a pyramid scheme, and and people like him are running pyramid schemes. Not all of them are financial pyramid schemes. Some of them are. Some of them are financial pyramid schemes, but a lot of them are just like social ones. They want to be the top of this like hierarchy that they create for themselves of, you know, sycophantic guys who hang off their every word. And the value for those guys is that they get to feel like they're like alpha. They're outside of the matrix. They exist in this state that's now above other men and above like traditionally disadvantaged groups like women and, you know, brown people, et cetera. Although maybe sometimes it's just like a all race inclusive, like misogynist cult. So who, like, you know, I can't speak to all of them, but I would just say, just from like a particular life advice, any philosophy that encourages you to like uplift yourself by putting other people down is bad. Yeah. You know, like you shouldn't be looking for how to uplift yourself by like owning people as property, women or black people or, you know, any other group. You shouldn't be looking for ways to like play like word games to sort of like cuck people verbally, you know, before you even enter those conversations. Those sorts of tricks and tips in life just tend to make you like miserable because they don't work. And then they, you know, automatically put you into that hierarchy system where you're like, you know, participating in white supremacy or misogyny or sexism, because you're trying to jockey for social position with people who, you know, like Matt said, you should just be looking to sort of engage with on like an interpersonal level. So I think it's helpful to see people as people, and also to like understand when someone's philosophy is inherently negative or toxic, because it calls for like dragging other people down to lift you up. Because you see that a lot with white supremacy. You see that a lot with misogyny.
Appreciate the call, Roz. We just got to jump, okay?
Yeah, thanks for answering that. And free Palestine, left is best.
Left is best. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we can move on.
I mean, I'll read this IM, though. Courier, 11 seconds. I would suggest to the caller about the MRA stuff to call it out when they are out. It's a bit scary at first, but I promise they'll catch on.
They don't have numbers. Like, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is like, I think, and I think it's something to monitor. I saw, what's that, Sneeko or whatever got brought up to some of his like teenage viewers, and they were like saying transphobic and anti-women stuff. And like, I think the one reason we cover a lot of these sorts of sources of this sort of shit is because it is a problem when people fall into that, and it makes their life worse, frankly. In addition to making them assholes that you don't care about, it also like alienates them from the rest of society. I do think like I think like we can be a little bit too catastrophic about it. I think like for what we use for proxies for the youth attitudes, they support abortion, support trans people more than older people. Now, one proxy that isn't trending the right way is people's attitudes to feminism, but I think there are critiques of feminism from the right and critiques of feminism from the left that maybe people are seeing like this needs to be more of a egalitarian and
not lean in feminism.
Well, yeah,
white
not bourgeois feminism.
Yes,
exactly.
Right. And I mean, honestly, the bourgeois feminism is the one that gets the dominant play.
Of course, because we have a bourgeois society. And,
yeah,
and
I see what Matt's saying, but definitely don't. That's egalitarianism is the MRA's favorite way to describe what they want when it's not. So, you know, real feminism isn't this, like Emma said, lean in feminism. Feminism is about equal rights, and men benefit from feminism just as much as women do. So that's the word for it. There's nothing like that's the whole thing too. Why are like what
that's
is
what we think of it, but like
Right.
as it's deployed by society, it isn't our version of feminism.
Right.
Like I think that is going to be alienating.
Right.
Of course it
Right.
should be. Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Right. Like the same thing, like when that caller, I think the caller, like, you know, he was bringing up masculinity and how, you know, I think a lot of this is like, how can I still show that I'm a big, tough, muscular guy and still care about these things or not be a womanizer or something like that. And it's like, what does that have to do with like, and I'm not saying that's exactly what that caller was saying, but I think a lot of people mean that when they mean masculinity. How can I still show that I'm a man's man without, you know, being an asshole? And like, what is that even? Like, what is that? There are, you know, women who, you know, certainly work out and look just as tough as men. Like, what does that have to do with being a man? It just doesn't. I think we have to completely get these sort of old school trope mentality, like out of our head completely.